bypassing the kidneys, getting around out of mercury, formaldehyde, and the heavy poisons particularly, so it takes the stress off the kidneys. We can generally kick Alzheimer's in about 30-40 minutes. Sounds crazy, but Mrs. Weir hadn't spoken to her husband for 6 years. She lived 6 houses from the Naturopathic College in Portland, and the big game with the students was to go over and play with Mrs. Weir. Her husband fed her, bathed her, put her to bed at night. She was a paper doll. After 4 years of playing with her, finally a student listened and he put her on the MSM. Because what happens, heavy metals like aluminum and lithium build up in the brain and they short circuit across the electrical synapses, so electricity is not going to the right cells. So you're confused, you can't think straight. The brain barrier has become leathery and you're not transferring anything through the brain barrier, so the toxins are building up and nutrition's not getting in. So on 2 weeks on the MSM, it became permeable so the aluminum could transfer through the membrane into the bloodstream. But it'll only do it until it equalizes pressure or volume. Once it's equalized, no more will transfer, so we had to make a one-way pump to get it out of her system. So he gave her a hot sweat bath with 3/4 of a cup of Clorox. The Clorox leaches onto aluminum best. After a 20-minute soak, she got out of the bathtub and said, "Gee, I feel better." 2 weeks later, he called up and said, "Boy, is she getting bitchy. I can't clean house, cook, do anything right anymore." He thought he did a good job for 6 years, but when she took over, she showed him all the things he was doing wrong. Now they're on a trip around the United States so she can get caught up with all the things she missed. So the body can heal itself. This stuff doesn't have to be in there. Another thing that people are quite concerned about is cholesterol. Butter melts at room temperature so your body can melt it. It turns into a liquid, can go through the membranes, into the veins, arteries, and in the cells and back out. It is nutritious. You can't live without it. But when they homogenize, pasteurize, and cauterize peanut butter, you can boil it on a stove and the fat won't separate. There's no way your body can break it down, so it goes right through you. Homogenized milk and these other things is the same way. The butter fats will not melt. That's why they won't separate. So you cannot use them, but they don't hurt you. Chlorine, which was designed to kill people in the First World War because it kills living cells, then was brought over here and put in your water system to kill living bacteria. If you go swimming in it and there's too much chlorine, you get out, your skin feels dry, scaly. Those are dead cells on the surface skin. When you drink it, it does kill some cells, but not enough to kill you. But the thing is, it can get in the bloodstream where it attacks the butter fats and turns them into a homogenized state. So now you have little globules of fat in the bloodstream that can't go through the walls of the vein. So it starts building up and you have a cholesterol problem. Well, Dr. Burgess's receptionist husband was 97% plugged. They got $5,000 from her and they put a balloon in this side of the vein and went right up into the head and didn't take any grease out. They squeezed it to the walls so the blood could get through. Then said, come up with another 15,000 and we'll start in your left leg. Come up your left leg, go right up into the brain and we'll clear that side out so your legs don't die. She didn't have 15,000 bucks, so the Dr. Burgess put him on the MSM and vitamin C. And 8 months later they went in to have him examined and there was no cholesterol in his bloodstream they could find to give trouble. They did an exam and they found out that he had less cholesterol in his bloodstream than the average healthy man, because the MSM made it permeable enough that these little fat globules could be broken down and passed out through the membranes and the body could clean them out. This is why a lot of you don't have any cholesterol. You can live on barbecued spare ribs, kielbasa sausages at 7-Eleven with hot cheese to glue the jalapenos and onions in place, and you don't have any cholesterol. The next person tries to eat nothing but vegetables and all of a sudden he's got a high cholesterol count. It's lack of MSM. The body heals itself. And they're telling me my time is up, but later on, if you want to, I can talk to you about candida, how the body works on this end of it. It takes a little more time, but it's very, very interesting how you digest food, because you break the foods down with acids. Then the bacteria, acidophilus, turns it into a soup so it can go through the colon walls. When you have a yeast that lives in the colon called candida, it keeps bad bacteria out. You cannot live without it. The only place it can live when you're healthy is in the colon, because your pH is normal for it. Your body, well, mosquitoes don't make swamps, swamps don't make mosquitoes. So without a swamp you don't have mosquitoes, because that's the breeding ground. When you take a fly swatter and you beat the mosquitoes down, you can beat them into submission until your arm gets tired, and then they're going to overwhelm you unless you drain the swamp. Killing mosquitoes is treating the symptom, draining the swamp gets rid of the problem. The body is a chemical factory. When it gets out of balance, bacteria overwhelm you. Antibiotics are the fly swatter. They kill down it. But unless you drain the swamp, when the antibiotic wears off, the bacteria overwhelm you again. Time up. Oh, okay, two more minutes. Okay. Now, when the body gets out of balance, then the candida is hungry, and it gets in the vagina because the pH is out of balance, and women have a yeast infection. That's candida. The white coating on people's tongues when they're sick, that's candida actually growing on the tongue. It gets in the ears and the eyes, they call it thrush. When it gets in the brain, it keeps the pH out of balance, causes nerves to trigger uncontrollably, then it's often called epilepsy. When it gets in the bloodstream, you eat food, you digest it, the candida steals it out of the blood, then it's called chronic fatigue, an incurable disease. There is no such thing, for we'd have all died 6,000 years ago. I love a doctor to tell you have 6 months to live. He's saying everybody has your symptoms he treats, die. So you put your life in his hands, the way he tells you, you won't have to worry about a will, and you can't sue him because he's going to keep his promise. I want a second opinion, 40 years. Yes, sir?
Could you just comment, perhaps for a moment, on macular degeneration?
The eye can heal itself. Doctors cut things, throw them away, and it never will heal, and they develop scar tissue and adhesions, which give you later problems. Now, the eye can heal itself, but it's got to have the right building materials to work with. Does that kind of answer your question?
Is MSM the one?
It makes it permeable so the stuff can get in, because your food can go through your colon, it can get in the bloodstream, it can get in the cells, it can help the eye put the nutrition on the front, and it comes through the back, and the eye starts rebuilding that tissue. There are other things like Eye Bright and other things that you can put, which are other nutritional, but they are in trace amounts in comparison. Remember, this is the third largest ingredient. Without salt you die, without water you die, without salt you don't control your body temperature, and you don't perspire good. You can go into heat fatigue and you get cramps real easy. So you need those ingredients to help your body heal itself. Now, candida is a living organism like you. You burn fuel, you put out toxins, which is your waste product, and when they build up you get sluggish, you get tired, and you go to sleep at night, your metabolism slows down, you finish throwing up off the toxins. You wake up refreshed. But if the candida is stealing it out of the bloodstream, glands start malfunctioning, you develop allergies to foods, pollens, and fragrances, and you have no energy. Now, the yeast is a living organism like you. When you put out toxins and it puts out toxins, they can simulate 80 different diseases you don't have. Now, when it simulates strep throat, what's the doctor do for you? Right. Kills down the acidophilus, candida gets stronger, and then it simulates pneumonia. And what's the doctor do for you? More antibiotics. Sinus infection. Every 3-4 weeks, the person has a cold.